Found it. I've been thinking about IFAKs. Now, I don't think there's a perfect IFAK. They're only kits built for different problems. For example, am I treating myself or am I treating another person? Am I a civilian or law enforcement, maybe military? Am I a hunter 3 miles into the woods? Is this for a USPSA match? Or is it for everyday concealed carry or a vehicle kit? These are wildly different problems, but YouTube loves to pretend like there's one universal packing list. One thing before we dig in, Bunfighter is brand new, and I wanted to do something a little fun to kick things off. Once we hit our first 100 subscribers, I'm going to randomly pick and I'm going to send them a fully stocked IFAK. In fact, it's going to be this one. It's going to be this pouch. It's exactly the same pouch that I use. It's going to have the same contents, this tourniquet, chest seals, hemostatic gauze, pressure dressing, the whole thing. Details are down in the description, but I figured somebody ought to leave with some. Let's define what an IFAK actually is. Because if you ask 10 different people, you're going to get 10 very different answers. Somewhere along the way, we've started treating them like they're tiny emergency rooms. People try to cram everything from Band-Aids to burn cream to aspirin into something that's supposed to fit on a belt or your plate carrier. Personally, I don't think that's what an IFAK is. An IFAK should be much more focused than that. To me, an individual first aid kit, IFAK, contains the equipment immediately available to treat the preventable cause of death until definitive medical care can arrive. Note what that definition leaves out. It doesn't say every medical emergency. It doesn't say everything that might happen. It's solving a very specific set of very serious problems. Once I started looking at it that way, a whole lot of my equipment choices suddenly became much easier. Who is this kit actually for, right? When you start asking that question, it changes everything, right? If the IFAK is for me, can I reach everything one-handed? If I have a dominant arm injury, can I still deploy my tourniquet? Can I open my pouch even? Can I get my chest seals out? Because if I can't, that sucks. People obsess over brands before asking whether they can physically use the equipment under stress. And that's a big problem. Yes, I deflected from that uncomfortable question. The simple point of it is that your IFAK should be for you. I know a lot of people don't like hearing that. They want to say, I should be able to treat Joe Schmo on the street if he gets hit. And yeah, sure, that is a very valid point. But your IFAK should be built for you. Back to the task at hand here. I left off saying that you should be able to use your kit. And truth be told, accessibility is probably more important than the contents inside your kit. So this is the point that I think gets overlooked almost more than anything else. Everybody wants to debate brands. Is it, are you going to grab a cat over a soft T? Hyphen versus Halo? Which chest seal's the best? Which pouch is the best? Nobody stops asking the much simpler question. can I actually reach any of this if I'm the one who's bleeding? If I've just taken a gunshot wound to my dominant arm, can I still open my pouch? Can I get the tourniquet out? Can I even find the zipper on it if it's a zipper pouch? If I'm trapped in my truck after a wreck, does my seatbelt block the access? Because it can. If I'm flat on my back, can I still reach it? So if I'm prone, can I reach it? And a lot of times, a lot of people place their IFAK in a situation where if they are prone, they might not be able to reach it. We spend so much time optimizing the contents that we often forget that accessibility is part of your equipment. If I can't get to it, I don't have it. So the important takeaway from this is that placement matters. Experiment with the location of your IFAK. Don't just set it and forget it. A lot of you, I'm sure, do dry fire exercises. I do. Start doing dry deployments of your IFAK. Set it up. Make sure you can reach it in different positions, locations, and find a good placement that will actually be useful. So let's get a little philosophical here. For me, I think that every item should answer one question. What problem does this solve? Not people say you need one, because Reddit says you need everything, and that's not necessarily true. For example, tourniquet. The problem that this solves is massive extremity hemorrhaging. That's simple. But then we take our pressure dressing. What's the problem that a pressure dressing solves? It's going to be maintaining direct pressure while freeing up your hands so that you can work on other problems. Hemostatic gauze. Problem that this solves is junctional bleeding that a tourniquet won't be able to solve. Chest seals. What's the problem that chest seals solve? Open chest wounds. Some people call them sucking chest wounds. Hint, all chest wounds suck. Then we've got gloves. I don't even have a pair of gloves right here right now because they're in my kit. But gloves, what's the problem that gloves solve? That's going to be protecting both the patient and the rescuer. So you see what's happening here? We're building from problems, and we're not shopping. You need to identify the primary problems that your IFAK is going to solve, and then build your kit from those problems. So what problems should your IFAK address? So what problems should your IFAK address? The main ones that I personally suggest is your massive extremity hemorrhaging, your junctional bleeding. So junctional can also include your neck, right? So for your hemostatic gauze, Z-fold gauze, whatever you're going to pack an injury, treat your armpits, your groin, your neck. Those can all be treated as junctional bleeding. I want to treat chest wounds. I want to be able to handle trunk damage. For me, those are your main ones, right? The main medical issues. You want to be able to access the injured person or yourself, and potentially, if you are trained, you want to be able to open the airway if that is if that becomes a problem. So it's a pretty simple list that I suggest. Controversies. It wouldn't be a great YouTube video without a little bit of controversy. Personally, I don't think that needle decompression should be included in your average civilian's IFAK. A lot of people hear about tension pneumothorax and, oh man, I want to be able to pop that and save my buddy. Almost nobody should be carrying a needle for decompression. Not because it can't save a life, but because it's an advanced intervention requiring proper training. You got to be able to assess and understand the indications, and then you got to be able to actually properly deploy that intervention. Most civilians will never need it, and using it incorrectly can cause harm. I'd rather somebody be outstanding at a tourniquet or packing a wound and applying pressure than carrying equipment that they're not prepared to use. Airway adjuncts. Remember, I just held up this nifty little MPA? It's the same discussion, right? OPA, MPA, should civilians carry them? Maybe, maybe not. It depends entirely on your training. Burn dressings. A lot of people say that they want to include a burn dressing in their IFAK. It depends where you are. Burn dressings are much more specialized and niche, and then people really give them credit for. You can treat somebody with a burn without needing a burn dressing. It's going to take up valuable space. Let's talk about Israeli bandage versus ACE wraps. I think this is one of the more interesting debates in trauma gear. Almost everybody immediately recommends the Israeli bandage, and honestly, I totally understand why. It was purpose-built for trauma. The pressure bar works. It self-secures very nicely. It's genuinely an excellent dressing. But the more I thought about it, the more I find myself asking a different question. What am I giving up by choosing the Israeli bandage? Because an ACE wrap is surprisingly very capable. It'll secure on packed gauze. It will hold a splint. It will compress swelling. It will wrap a sprain. It will hold dressings in awkward places. It's not just a pressure dressing. It's a general purpose compression tool. So now the question isn't which is better, your Israeli bandage or your ACE bandage. So now the question isn't which one is better. The question becomes, am I optimizing my kit for the absolute worst day of my life, or for the 100 smaller problems I'm statistically much more likely to see? I don't know that there is a universally correct answer. In my IFAK, personally, I run the Israeli bandage. I have ACE wraps in my trauma bag, bathroom medicine cabinet. Hell, I just found one in my laundry basket the other day. The point here is that ACE bandages are incredibly useful tools, right? But when I think about trauma, my hand always reaches for the Israeli bandage. Off of that tangent, we have the ETD, the emergency trauma dressing. Basically, it's an Israeli bandage without some of the extra hardware. Some people actually prefer them because they're smaller, there's less bulk. I don't necessarily think that there is a universally correct answer here, but as I said earlier, I do prefer the Israeli bandage. Full-size shears versus mini shears. This one is surprisingly divisive. Mini shears are tiny. They take almost no pouch space, but I've used enough trauma shears to know that leverage matters. Trying to cut through jeans with tiny shears can suck. Trying to cut leather, forget it. I have 3 pairs of full-size shears, and I have 2 pairs of mini. Sometimes I carry the mini, sometimes I carry the full-size. It's going to depend on your kit and how much space you really want. Your full-size shears are great. You'll get that leverage that you won't get with your mini shears, but they are going to take up more space in your kit. Some people don't carry shears at all, right? They carry a rescue hook. I don't carry a rescue hook, but some people do carry a rescue hook. And hooks absolutely will destroy seatbelts, clothing. They're much safer around skin, but they're not going to cut boots. Good luck cutting gear. It is possible. They won't cut thick clothing nearly as universally. That's a different tool, a different philosophy. If you have a rescue hook, I don't think you're wrong. I just prefer shears. IFAK pouches, now we're talking, right? This is probably the least discussed piece of medical gear. Everyone talks about what's inside your IFAK, but nobody talks about whether they actually like the pouch. And there's something I didn't appreciate until I started carrying different pouches. The pouch isn't just a container. It changes how you practice. It changes how quickly you can find equipment. It changes whether you can work one-handed. It even changes whether you enjoy carrying the thing. It even changes whether you enjoy carrying the thing. We obsess over what's inside the pouch, but we almost never ask whether we actually like using the pouch itself. Let's take this TT IFAK. When I got it, I hadn't been more excited for a piece of Cordura than I had when I got my Haley Strategic plate carrier. I just knew I was going to love this pouch, and I do. It's great. It really is. This is a great pouch. It's bomb-proof. But when I started packing it, I realized that there were a lot of concessions that I would have to make to make it my primary. Talking about the different types of pouches, there's rollout pouches. These have become really popular, right? Pros, everything is visible. There's fast inventory, nothing buried. But one of the cons is you need a lot of space to unfold them. They can dump things out without meaning to, and they're not always great one-handed. Let's talk about the clamshell. This is a clamshell design. It's probably my favorite. Zip, opens flat. Everything is organized. It's pretty intuitive. Pull-away pouches. These are becoming my favorite conceptually. All three of these are pull-away. This is a different kind of pull-away. But this is a clamshell. It's pull-away. This is both pull-away and pull-out. And this is actually, it's kind of more of a pull-out than a pull-away. But that aside, pull-aways are becoming my favorite conceptually. You rip it off your belt, you hand it to somebody, work on your lap with it, moving it around the casualty, having the person that's treating you move it around you. They're really clever, and I think they're really clever, especially for civilians. Let's talk about elastic insert systems. Spiritus makes one, Faro makes one, Shaw makes one, Blue Force makes one. A lot of different companies are making inserts now. They're very modular, they're very clean, but sometimes they're almost too modular, if that makes sense. People are going to start chasing organization instead of accessibility, and that is going to cause problems along the way. Vertical tearaway, tearaways are everywhere nowadays. This is a vertical tearaway. They're good for your belt. They're good for your vehicle. Sometimes they're awkward on chest rigs. It depends, right? It's going to depend on your use case. Zippers versus Velcro. I think this deserves discussion, right? This is zipper mostly. This is Velcro mostly. This is zipper and Velcro. Velcro is fast until you get in the mud, snow, dirt, leaves, debris. Then it starts becoming less magical. I'm sure you've seen the meme. The military loves its Velcro patches now. They get stuck everywhere. They fall off once mud starts getting into them. Like I just said, good luck. Zippers fail too, though, especially cheap zippers. Quality zippers, however, are incredibly reliable. Internal organization. This gets overlooked. Do you want elastic loops? Do you want mesh pockets? Do you want loose cavities? Color coding? Shock cords? Honestly, I think too much organization can hurt. Imagine trying to remember gauzes in the left rear mesh pocket. So maybe simpler actually is better. Bright red or camouflage? This is another fun debate. Should your medical pouch scream, "I'm medical," or should it blend into your kit? Arguments exist both ways. Personally, I prefer, I don't really run a lot of camouflage. I prefer flat colors, but if your kit is built around camouflage or flat color, I prefer color matching just because it looks nice. And guess what? This is a nice coyote tan, and it screams IFAK. You're not going to miss that. You can know if it doesn't, this Rhino Rescue pouch is great. It has the little cross symbol built right into the Velcro. Or this one here, you can actually get patches that say that it's an IFAK. So yeah, that debate exists, but I prefer color matching just because it looks better. So placement. Are you going to put it on your belt? Are you going to put it on your chest rig, your plate carrier? Is it going in a fanny pack? Your vehicle? all of them solve different problems. Remember, way back at the start of this ramble, we were talking about solving problems with your kit. So each placement solves a different problem. Um, and this is where I think civilians accidentally copy military loadouts. A dude walking into Costco doesn't need a plate carrier mounted IFAK, but he needs something either in his belt or in his vehicle, um, or a discrete waist pack. Um, I don't think that there's anything inherently wrong with copying military loadouts. Just you need to be able to have the mindset that your IFAK should go in a location that fits the situation at hand, right? If you're going to the range and you don't have, you're not wearing a plate carrier, potentially some people do. There's nothing really wrong with that. But, you know, if you're just going to the range with your buddies, you can have one in your fanny pack, or I've seen some people just toss one around their ankle, or it can go on the back of your shooting belt, whatever. Changing speeds. Vacuum packed refill kits. This one bugs me. People buy pre-made pre-fill kits, and there is nothing wrong with those. I think they're great. I buy them all the time. But then they stuff them inside their IFAK. They never open them. They never repack them. They never practice with them. Then when they finally need gauze, they got to go through the thick plastic that's vacuum vacuum. Then they got to dig through it, and it becomes a hassle. So if you buy a pre-packed refill kit, make sure you open it up, repack it, because it's going to take up less space, or better space, I should say, when you open up that vacuum pack kit and put it in your IFAK properly. And honestly, I think everybody should unpack and repack their IFAKs at least once, because as time goes on, you're going to realize that maybe the way you had your IFAK laid out isn't the best way to do it. One-handed access. This is going to be my obsession here. I've talked about it a little bit earlier. However, you need to be able to access your IFAK single-handedly. I would almost, and I don't even say almost, I would argue that your immediate life-saving stuff like a tourniquet, chest seals, shears, stuff like that should maybe go into something small along your central line, right? I've been talking to a friend a little bit here, and we were discussing danglers, because I do run a dangler, and I like to keep my tourniquet in there. I like to keep some shears. I like to keep some chem lights in there. And it's all right in the trunk, so either hand can access it easily, right? And then my personal IFAK usually lives somewhere around here or here, depending on which kit I'm running. So it's easy to access either hand. Yes, you got to reach a little bit with one rather than the other, right? But at least my immediate life-saving intervention tools are right in the center line. The best IFAK is the one you'll actually carry, and that is very true. I've seen some people build these massive belt-mounted bricks, right? Even this could be argued that this is a massive belt-mounted brick, because they're trying to carry every conceivable intervention, and after a couple weeks, they start leaving them in the truck because they're uncomfortable. So a smaller, well-thought-out IFAK that's on you every day is far more useful than the ultimate kit that's just sitting in your vehicle. So this circles back to something I think that could become the central theme of this entire video, is that every design choice is a trade-off. And we're going to talk even a little bit more about that later. And then let's talk about duplication, right? How many tourniquets should you have? 1, 2, 3? Military thinking has increasingly shifted towards carrying multiple tourniquets because multiple limb injuries and failed first applications of tourniquets, they do happen. For a civilian carrying an everyday belt-mounted IFAK, or one on their plate carrier, maybe one externally staged tourniquet makes sense, right? I was just talking about the dangler. And then you could have a second one in your primary IFAK. It's going to depend on the context, and you gotta think about the problems that you're trying to solve first. Expiration dates are another myth-filled topic here. Chest seals, hemostatic gauze, gloves, compressed gauze, they all come with expiration dates. Some expiration dates matter more than others, but people will throw away a perfectly serviceable piece of equipment because the dates says that it's expired. Stuff like hemostatic gauze, I would worry a little bit more about your expiration date than, say, your Israeli bandage, or even your chest seals. They might not be sticky anymore, but a plastic barrier over. So your chest seal might not be sticky anymore because of its expiration date, but as long as it's still sterile, you can use it. I've made chest seals out of baggies, and you just tape them down 3 sides, so that way there's a vent, because you do want a vented side, and it should be okay. Counterfeits are absolutely worth mentioning, especially from cat tourniquets. Cat tourniquet knockoffs are everywhere. This is a knockoff cat tourniquet. This one here, this is from Rhino Rescue. This isn't name brand. However, I've done extensive testing with Rhino Rescue tourniquets, and I do think that they are incredible. For a quote-unquote knockoff, Rhino Rescue tourniquets are one that I would actually trust my life with. However, something like this, I literally bought this. This is from MedResq. I bought this as a trainer or a display piece. Make sure, if you aren't sure about the quality of a tourniquet, make sure you do thorough research beforehand. If you have one in question, you can always send it to me. Don't actually send me your tourniquet, but you can always send me a picture, or link it in the comments down below, and I will do some research for you. I might even pick one up myself and do some testing. If counterfeit or regular tourniquet testing is something that you would like to see, please let me know in the comments below. But something like compressed gauze, as long as it's sterile, should be fine. Doesn't really matter who makes your compressed gauze, as long as it's compressed, the seal is intact, and it is sterile, it should be good to go. SAM splints, knockoff SAM splints should be fine, as long as it is aluminum in the middle and it's bendy and foamy, should be okay. Hemostatic gauze, do not trust counterfeits. Israeli bandages, I wouldn't necessarily trust a counterfeit either. Again, if you have a counterfeit item or an off-brand counterfeit item, I shouldn't even say counterfeit. If you have an off-brand item or a counterfeit item, link where you got it from down below, and I will, if you have questions about it, and I will reach out to you, or I'll do a follow-up video. Practice, 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 practice. I honestly think that this is the most important part of the entire discussion, right? I've noticed something. People will spend hundreds of dollars building out a kit, and then they won't practice with it. They won't train it. They won't train with it. They will buy stuff that they have, and they've never even had any kind of first aid training. So I think that's really strange, and I think that's important. Practice with your medical equipment, because all of these intervention techniques, they are degradable. And if you don't have any medical training, make sure you get medical training. My own kit, you've been waiting for it, and if I'm going to be completely honest, I had to milk the algorithm somehow. You've probably been staring at these 4 IFAKs for the last 20 minutes, wondering when I was finally going to open up one. So let's start over here. This IFAK, this is the IFAK that I was issued in the Army, and gets upset. Let me say this. This pouch has saved lives, a lot of lives. It's a good pouch, but it's also a product of its time. It was designed around medical equipment that we were carrying 20 years ago. Trauma care has evolved, and the equipment to match it has evolved. Unfortunately, this pouch just didn't evolve with it. Modern contents fit, but they don't fit particularly well. When I tried putting everything that's in this, it just wouldn't work. But it's a good pouch, and I'm very fond of it, right? It opens up. You have this, it has this nifty little diaper, I should really call it. Can fit a decent amount of stuff in here, but just not enough, and not the right stuff, in my opinion. So next up here, this is made by Rhino Rescue. I honestly wish that they still sold this pouch. They might, but I couldn't find another one. So it carries a surprisingly large amount of equipment, right? I was able to fit everything that I want to inside of this pouch. It opens up. It's technically a tearaway, right? Because these don't snap. These mounting options don't snap on the back, so you can technically tear it away, but also it's pull away. And there's a decent amount of yardage here, so if it was attached to my plate carrier, it can move to be within arm's reach for wherever the work is being done. You can't really give it to somebody, but it's a very solid pouch. I like it quite a bit. Then there's the Tasmanian Tiger. So this is made by Tasmanian Tiger. The IFAK name is the TT IFAK. This goes with it. It was inside. Anyways, this is genuinely a well-designed pouch. The organization is excellent. It is both a tearaway pouch and it is a pull-out pouch. So you can tear it, you can pull it out and go. And then if you really wanted to, like if this was still on my plate carrier, I wouldn't be upset. So this is genuinely a well-designed pouch. I genuinely think that the organization is excellent. You can fit a lot inside of it. There's a reason why Tasmanian Tiger has earned the reputation that they have. Like I was saying, this is a very well-designed pouch, but I'm still evaluating it. Not because it's a bad pouch, but because every pouch is a compromise. And I'm still trying to figure out which compromise I like the best. But it is a genuinely great pouch. Which brings us to this one. I'm going to get a lot of hate in the comments below, and that's okay. Feel free to roast me. I don't care. This is an Amazon Chinesium pouch. Somehow it's become the pouch that I keep coming back to. This one is actually brand new. Not because the old one wore out, but because my dog apparently decided that it looked exactly like the world's most tactical chew toy. The previous one, though, the pouch went through a lot with me, including the Hurricane Helene rescue operations when I volunteered for those. So while this isn't the pouch that I would necessarily recommend to everyone, it has earned my trust. Now, let's see why. Tourniquet, right? No surprises there. You'll notice that this is a cat, but I do keep a softie in my everyday carry. I carry them both. They are the gold standards. Along with the Rhino Rescue that I had mentioned earlier and I showed off earlier, those three are the ones that I would trust my life with. Israeli bandage, right? Remember earlier when I was talking about solving problems instead of buying equipment? This is exactly what I meant. Could I carry an ace wrap instead? Absolutely. It's probably the more versatile tool. But when I think about my IFAK, I think about trauma. And I'm thinking about the worst day, not the average day. So this is the purpose-built trauma tool. And for the specific kit, I would rather have that dressing than the ace. That is the trade-off I chose. Nasopharyngeal airway. Along with the jelly, because if you're gonna stick something up somebody's nose, you should do it lubricated. This one's gonna start some arguments. I carry one because I've been trained to use one, and that's the key, right? If you don't know when it's indicated, then you don't know when it's not. Don't let me carrying one convince you that you need one too. Training always comes before equipment, and if you don't know how to use it, you're not trained to use it, don't use it. Same splint. So this is probably, god damn it, trauma shears. This is probably The one item that I've gone back and forth more than anything on in this kit, and you just saw why. It's bulky, it's a little bit difficult to get out of your pouch, takes up more room than I would like it to, and every time I pack this kit, I ask myself if it's worth the space. But right now, it's in there. So you know, the answer's always been yes. The one thing about a SAM splint is that it solves a lot of different problems, right? Broken wrists, broken ankles. It isn't something I expect to use often, but if the day ever comes that I need one, I will be glad that I made the room for it. Gloves, right? Gloves are one of those pieces of equipment that people tend to overlook because they're not exciting. So whether that's blood, bodily fluids, or just trying to keep dirt out of a wound, gloves buy me a little protection while I'm trying to help somebody else. They're small, they're cheap, and I can't think of a good reason not to carry them. Marker. This is probably the least impressive looking thing in the entire pouch, right? It's also one of the most useful. Everybody knows that you're supposed to write the tourniquet time on the patient. That's important, but markers do a lot more than that. You can write patient information, you can mark interventions, you can leave notes for the next level of care, or just communicate when words aren't enough. It weighs almost nothing, it takes up almost no space, and it solves problems that are really hard to solve once you need it. Hemostatic gauze. People sometimes look at a tourniquet and think, well, that handles everything. And that's not even close. They only work on extremities. A wound high in the groin, in your armpit, in the neck, a tourniquet isn't going to help you there. Everybody likes to say, tourniquet the neck, but that's just a joke. Don't actually tourniquet the neck. That's where hemostatic gauze really earns its place. This is for the bleeding that can't be controlled with a tourniquet. And if you know how to pack a wound properly, it can be an absolute lifesaver. Z-fold gauze. Wow, that one really doesn't want to come out. Z-fold gauze. Honestly, plain compressed gauze might be the most underrated thing in this entire kit. People get really excited about all the high-speed gear. Meanwhile, plain gauze quietly solves problem after problem. Packs wounds, it builds pressure, wrapping injuries, creating bulk under a pressure dressing, cleaning wounds if that's all you got. It's simple, it's inexpensive, and it's one of those things that's almost impossible to have too much of. Chest seals. Chest seals earned their place in a kit time after time after time. These here, they are vented and non-vented, so you have one of each, right? One for the in, one for the out. Chest seals will save your life. They've saved many lives on the battlefield. Also in my kit, I like to include a first aid manual, because if the person that gets to me doesn't know what they're doing, this will help. TCCC card. Again, we were just talking about with the marker. If you don't have a TCCC card, you can write on the patient, but I like to have one. Trauma shears. We talked about trauma shears earlier as well. I like to keep trauma shears in here because you never know when you're going to need to access a part of a patient that's covered with clothes or gear or however. Lastly is self-adherent tape. This is my compromise here, right? Earlier I talked about Israeli bandages and the ACE wrap. The Israeli won for that debate for this kit when I was thinking IFAK, but I wanted some of the versatility that an ACE wrap can give me. So this self-adherent wrap scratches that itch. It's compact, right? It takes up almost no space. It sticks to itself instead of the patient. It's great for holding dressings. It's adding compression or securing all kinds of improvised treatments. It's not a replacement for an ACE wrap. It's not trying to be. It's simply just another tool that solves a different set of problems. And that's everything inside my personal kit. So that's where I land on building an IFAK, at least for today. This was very surface level. I don't think that there is a perfect kit. I think that there are just different solutions to different problems. And honestly, if this video made you stop and think a little differently about your kit, I think that I accomplished what I set out to do. One last thing before I go. I've always believed that your IFAK should be your IFAK. Build it for yourself, carry it on you, know where everything is, and know how to use it. If everybody in your family, your friend group, or your range group has their own kit, then everybody is better prepared when something happens or when something goes wrong. If you enjoyed this kind of conversation, I'd appreciate you subscribing. If you'd like me to go more in depth on anything, please let me know in the comments below. Bunfighter is just getting started, and this is exactly the kind of content that I want to make. And if you think this video could help somebody build their own kit, I'd really appreciate it if you'd send it to them. Maybe they'll share it with somebody else, and before long, everybody in your group has their own IFAK. I think that's a pretty good outcome. Let me know what you think down below. Where do you disagree with me? Where do you agree with me? What if you learned that I haven't? I genuinely like to hear your perspective. Thanks for spending a little time with me. Again, if you could like, comment, and please subscribe if you found this video useful. If you didn't, then just let me know in the comments below. And thanks a lot, everybody, and have a great day.